Welcome to the Sales and Marketing Playbook Unleashed, the premier podcast for innovative growth strategies, hosted by two seasoned experts. Meet Evan Poland, the president of Poland Performance Group, a master in sales coaching with over 2 decades of experience. Evan is not just a consultant, he's a force in sales, focusing on mindset, planning, and skill development. He's also the co-author of Selling Professional Services the Sandler Way. Joining him is Craig Andrews, partner and CEO of Beholder Agency, an expert in growth marketing. With 20 years under his belt, Craig blends marketing creativity with strategy to propel businesses forward, making Beholder Agency a leader in effective marketing solutions. Together, Evan and Craig are here to share their wisdom on winning strategies, best practices, and transformative insights that will fuel your growth. Get ready to revolutionize your sales and marketing approach right here on the Sales and Marketing Playbook Unleashed.
Welcome to the Sales and Marketing Playbook Unleashed. I'm Craig Andrews, and let's see if I get it. Nope.
No.
And there's Evan Poland. This is going to be the running joke every episode. I can't get the directions right. All right. It's the opposite of the way I think it is. So anyway,
the series finale will be when Craig gets this right on the first on the first attempt.
I keep doing it every episode. And I keep getting it wrong, but I will get it. I promise you. So I'm excited about this episode. We have a person here who has a ball of energy, and that energy is awesome when it gets in between your service and my service, primarily because of the fact that, you know, a lot of times, Evan, we deal with people who sometimes have a plan, sometimes don't have a plan, sometimes they think they have a plan, and ultimately they have no plan. Right? So let's start by doing it this way. Evan, why don't you give me background about Poland Performance Group? Give me a little elevator pitch, which you taught me. I know you taught me how to do it, so I'm going to hopefully do you well. Go ahead.
So I'm feeling some pressure now.
No pressure.
But I think it's good for us to refresh the audience on what both of us do, because I think that, you know, with our two pieces, with our guest, it's really firms, companies are optimized when all three pieces come together. But Poland Performance Group, I help small to mid-sized firms, small to mid-sized companies who are looking to proactively increase their business and grow their sales. And typically the kinds of challenges they have is they're not getting enough meetings with enough of their kind of ideal kinds of clients, or they will meet with folks. The meetings will seem to go really well, but they're not getting a decision at the end of the meeting. And the sales cycle just takes longer and longer. They end up doing a lot of free consulting for folks who end up not becoming clients. And then those folks who have been in business, have a good client base, they're just not getting the referrals, introductions they know they should be getting from their clients, and they're not quite sure why. And they just really need help, whether it's some coaching, whether it's accountability, whether it's a little bit of training, to give them a process, give them an approach to be more successful at growing a practice, growing a book of business. And Craig, why don't you share with the audience a little bit more in detail about what Beholder Agency does?
Sure. We're a growth marketing agency. Ultimately, what we do is we help clients navigate the world of digital marketing. We help clients who basically say, I have a website, I'm getting nothing from it. I'm trying to do this marketing thing and nothing's coming from it. So we develop unique strategies and services that will allow them to grow their business year after year. So in saying that, I want to introduce our guest here, not our next guest, our guest, Rachel Steininger. She's a business advisor and a fractional COO. And her introduction goes as such. Rachel Steininger is the founder of Upward Acceleration. Boutique law firms come to Rachel when they're hitting capacity and know that they need scalable systems. That's one of our buzzwords, scalable systems to grow without breaking. Rachel works with advisors works as an advisor or a coach, as well as serving as a fractional interim COO. We should get her to define fractional. I think that's important.
Yep.
She earned her MBA in finance and managerial organizational behavior and has designed processes, there it is again, to support billions of dollars in transactions. Clients work with Rachel have doubled revenue quarter over quarter, love that, and hit major goals. It's time to accept half the time except, and I'm butchering this. I'm butchering this completely. Let's get Rachel on so she can make me sound a little better than I sound right now. And here she is, Rachel Steininger.
Hi, Craig. Hi, Evan. How are you today?
I apologize.
That's okay.
Rachel, we like to butcher the introduction. So if we look bad, we're hoping to just make you look better and better.
Well, then if I stumble over my words, I'm not going to worry. So this is
Fear not. Fear
love
not.
it. We're all friends here.
That's why I'm wearing my glasses. The words get smaller and smaller as I go down.
So, and Rachel, I'm really excited that we have you on. And selfishly, from my perspective, from Craig's perspective, our job is to help firms, help companies grow, increase sales, increase business. But if an organization doesn't have the infrastructure, if they don't have the plan, if they can't handle all of that business that's coming in, then Craig and I end up getting put on pause because firms just can't handle the business that's coming in. And if they don't have a plan in place, they can only scale to a certain point. And especially I find law firms, accounting firms, they're not business people a lot of times. They're really, really good at what they do. But when it comes to structure, when it comes to running a business, having process, they can be to be kind of lacking in that area. And again, what I think you do is just a great benefit for those firms. Wanted you to share a little bit about how you got into doing what you're doing, and a little bit about what you do with the firms who you help. And again, going back to Craig's question before, a little bit more in case people in our audience don't know what fractional means when it comes to the kinds of services that you provide.
Yeah, well,
Please make me look better than I did, please.
Well, thank you for having me on here. I think you've made some great points just there, Evan, because what ends up happening is for many small business owners, they have the big dreams of revenue and hitting these milestones. And then the reality starts sinking in that, as one client put it to me when they came in, I have more revenue, but I also have less profit and more stress. And so people start to shy away from the idea that they can have a more profitable firm, because it's not just about the revenue, right? It's about what you keep. It's about the life that you're building. And many of these small business owners go into their work because they want to practice their craft. They want the freedom to do it in the way they want to. They want to have a certain impact. They might want more flexibility with their family. And so profit can be defined even beyond the revenue side of it, right? So I really love working with those business owners who, like Craig said, they're maxing capacity, or they're feeling like things aren't going the way it should. This doesn't feel right to me. And they want things to be better, and they want it for themselves. They want it for their clients. And they know that they have more potential out there than what they've been experiencing. And where it really all comes into play is, you can have systems and processes, and those are buzzwords. We should talk about those. But at the same time, what do those systems and processes do? Are they doing things effectively? And is that model there in a way that's going to support what you want out of your business? So that's what I look at as my primary job, is let's define what you actually want out of this business. Do you want the multi-million-dollar firm, or do you want the firm that gives you a lot of flexibility? And each person is different, and we want to define that operational model to suit that person. And then, on the other side of it is, once we've set those goals, how do we keep that motor running? How do we keep the execution engine going? And so I actually call it the acceleration engine, so that when they have those goals, they can keep hitting them. They don't have to come back to somebody like the two of you and say, turn off the tap. I'm done. This is just not worth it. I'm just going to call it quits.
I've got to tell you, that's the most frustrating phone call I get is when, sorry, you've done too good a job. I can't handle everything that I have. So we're going to need to stop this because I can't keep up with the work.
Yes.
Probably the most frustrating call that I get.
Yeah. Stop being an overachiever, Evan. Just.
I'll tell you, I think that part of the things that's frustrating on my end is it takes time to get the train moving.
Yes.
Because a lot of times they're coming from this expectation and we're trying to build them to this or even more. So as the train's moving and they go, we got to stop. Now all of it goes away, which is frustrating because we're trying to move them and grow them in their revenue.
Well,
Question. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
And I was going to say, I think on the operational side, it's the same thing. I call it stacking and scaling. We're trying to incrementally build the building blocks, right? Whether it's in marketing or in sales or in this operational model. I think of it as like, how do you build the business as the foundation as opposed to brute force effort?
Yes.
The business owner holding it all on their shoulders. But it does take a certain patience. You have to have clients who are willing to look at it iteratively. We would all love to jump from A to Z overnight. We would all love that. I am super impatient. I would love to be where I want to be yesterday. But it does take some experimentation. It's almost like setting a scientific hypothesis. And so you have to, I think that's a conversation we all have as service providers, including our clients. Why does this take longer than we think? Or what is it that we're doing? And then, yes, very frustrating once it does start to creep up and start to work. And you're like, you're going to stop now? Like, why would you stop now? So,
yeah. So let's take a second and define fractional for those that may not know what that means. I know that's a buzzword within our space, but not all businesses understand that. Why don't you define it for us?
So when you're talking about a fractional, usually you're talking about a fractional at a very strategic level in the business. So a lot of times when businesses are going out to hire, they're hiring the to-do people. They're hiring the people who are going to do the administrative tasks or the regular day-to-day work. But there's a point in time in which you need a lot more strategic vision coming into play. But that can be really inaccessible for the small business because those are usually roles that have somebody with a lot of experience and a lot of gravitas to be able to see how everything interconnects, right? When you're looking at a C-suite level position, you're looking for somebody who understands the strategy and the context, as well as how it's happening on the day-to-day basis. And so fractional is really to help fill that gap. So you're not looking at making a multi-six-figure hire because who wants to spend that kind of money when you might need a CMO and a COO and a CFO and right? That's where we see all these fractionals. So a fractional is really about, let's define what you truly need from a strategic standpoint and get it in at a price that's affordable and has an ROI on it. Because $300,000 a year. I mean, I look at like a COO salary and a corporation's going to start with a base salary in the 300 to 400s. Yeah. So, and I know that might not be the salary you'd pay working in a small firm, but it's still, around 200 plus just in salary. And so you're getting something at a fraction of that cost, but you're getting the ROI of somebody having the expertise, but also having the ability to manage some of the projects or oversee the strategy execution, at least from a COO perspective. I think that's similar with the CFO and the CMO. It's beyond advice, it's doing a little execution, and that's very specific and very customized to each client and what they need. But it's really about making it accessible. But it is something that you would hire, at least when I think about the COO side, it's after you've hired the administrative assistant. It's after you've hired the office manager. Those things come first. And in fact, those are sort of check the box things when I'm looking at somebody who really wants me to come in a hands-on type of activity. Do they have those implementers? Because oftentimes those things are missing, or somebody has hired an office manager thinking they'll be able to do the strategic side of it. And you might get really lucky and get somebody who just has the right, head for it, the right personality for it. But chances are really good that you've hired somebody who's very good at execution and day-to-day, but not necessarily at translating or understanding strategy and translating that to the day-to-day.
And Rachel, to that end, just so folks have a good idea, so our audience understands for you personally, what kind of size is a good client for you in terms of revenue, number of employees, kind of where they are in the cycle of their business?
Yeah. So when I'm working with somebody on a coaching and advisory basis, if they're solo, I will work with them, provided they're really serious about having some staff come on, or at least looking at part-time help. So somebody who just says, I'm solo and I never want somebody helping me, we're not going to be a good fit. I'm a big fan of delegation. But in terms of the fractional COO work, 10 to 12 people in terms of headcount and, a couple $1 million in revenue. Usually things like a CFO or a CMO are coming before the COO role. And that COO role can also look like a CEO role as well in this sort of picture. So it could be fractional COO or fractional CEO without somebody giving up control of their business. That is not what we're doing. We're trying to enhance the efforts of the business owner.
And, I really want to stress the importance of understanding the strategic side of things, because a lot of times when we come into clients, they have a vision, which is different than a strategy. Yes. And I think that ultimately they believe their vision is a strategy. And then we come in and then we have to explain, I don't understand where you're trying to go. Primarily because I have a vision based off of your vision from a marketing perspective. Evan might have a vision in terms of how he can increase the sales, but the actual true strategy, putting one next to another and making sure the puzzle pieces fit, is a really big benefit of having you come in and speak with them. Let me transition here a little bit because I want to put a lot of time to an upcoming event that you have coming. You two are working together on a big event coming up, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Correct. And you're giving me a little too much credit. Rachel is putting together a fantastic event that she's allowing me to be a very small part of.
Wow, that was humble. Okay. So Rachel, why don't you tell us about this event?
Sure. It's called the Small Law Big Profit Summit. So I work mostly with service professionals, I think as the two of you do as well, but a large majority of my clients have been small law firms. And so putting together this online summit, it's going to be held December 9th through the 12th, all virtual and free admission. There is, some bonuses if you want to upgrade for lifetime recordings, but free admission. And we're really looking for those small law firm owners, solo or small, who are looking to hit a big milestone in 2025. So maybe it's their first 7-figure milestone or their next 7-figure milestone. But to what we've been describing, these might be people who really care about the revenue, but they might care about the profit in terms of their freedom or their flexibility as well. So we're having a very holistic agenda, looking at that vision, helping translate that down into strategy and tactics. We could totally talk about that. We're going to have sales and marketing experts in, like Evan. And then we're going to also talk about profit maximization as well as scalability and looking at, tools and teams and things like that. So we really want it to be a holistic conference. So not just, here's how to sell, but also how do we translate that? How do we get the vision that we want and put that into practice? So I think it'll be a little bit for everybody, but really it's for that solo to small law firm owner who just wants to do something different in the next year and really wants to make 2025 a success.
Real quick, Evan, before I jump to you, remind us again the date, the time, and where we can find that link.
So I'll say that. Yes.
Yeah.
So it's going to be December 9th through the 12th. It'll be online and you can register at smalllawbigprofit.com. Awesome. Singular profit. Don't add an S on the end. Yeah.
So, and I hear there's a lot of buzz around this goal setting program that's going on for that program, and that day one there's this killer program that's going to be happening on how firms can bring in the revenue that they want to bring in for next year or so.
Yeah, I think Evan is going to do a great job at helping people get really tactical about their strategy and figuring out. I think one of the things with sales is you have to be realistic about what does it actually take. And so we can throw out big numbers. Again, same with operations, same with marketing, right? We can get really pie in the sky. And I think that's great. Some people operate really well off that big vision, but then some people operate really well off of those. Like, how do we tactically get this done? And I think Evan's going to be a great contributor in that regard. And then also Evan will be online. He's going to do a little takeover in our summit community and be there to answer questions and really help people customize and hone in on their sales strategy for 2025. It's going to be great.
So again, make sure to look out for those links. But I would strongly recommend any solo, any small to mid-sized firm. If you want to see how you can start to scale, if you're sick and tired of pulling your hair out because you finally went out and started your own firm, but it's not exactly what you thought it was going to be, and you want to have more fulfillment, more happiness, more of the lifestyle that you were envisioning when you got started, I think there'll be a lot of great programs throughout that conference that'll help you to get to where you want to be. So, and Rachel, this may be a good time. Are there any tips that you have for those, managing partners, those smaller firms, in terms of a couple of just big picture things that they can think about, a couple of big picture things that they can do to help them with scaling, to help them with process, whether it's executable things or just, mindset they should have, thought the process they should have as their firm really starts to grow?
Yeah, I think there's a couple things. One is what I see with a lot of business owners is that they're trying to now I'm going to do marketing. Now I'm going to do sales. Now I'm going to do systems. And they view it as this checklist of different items. And really what your business is an ecosystem. You're building an ecosystem. And what that means actually is something is always kind of out of whack, which I've seen business owners get really upset when something's going wrong, but it just means that's your next area of improvement. And so changing the mindset of, this is a set of all these disparate things and it's overwhelming, but really this is an ecosystem, and accept that it's, there's always going to be checks and balances to it, but everything interrelates. When you think about the operational model, for example, I spent, before doing this work as a coach and a fractional COO, I worked in the investment world. So I tested things like systems and processes on very large amounts of money, right? Like, somebody mistypes a negative sign instead of a positive sign. We had to cut a check to the client for $250,000. Like, it's, stuff like that. So it's really about, how do we develop a better relationship with people? So, when an employee messes up, or when we want to support an employee, we do that through processes and systems. When we want to make sure that a client feels great and wants to do more business with us or wants to refer us, we want to make sure we're delivering on the promises that happen through marketing and sales. So that's where your operational model comes in. So I think another thing I'd have business owners do is really listen to what your employees are saying, that clients are giving them as feedback. That bottom up indication of what's going on is really important, whether it has to do with operations or it has to do with, new potential products or services that you could offer. And listen to the marketplace as well. There's a lot of things going on, especially the legal industry. There's an estimate that, I'm going to misquote this, but something like 30% of current billable hours are about to go away or become things clients don't want to pay for because they could be done by AI. And so looking at, how do you want to create a business model that may be more efficient, that doesn't undermine your profitability? A lot of recommendations are to go to subscription or flat rate pricing. So, understanding that your operational model is going to support your ability to get referrals, your ability to, have new opportunities or cross-selling opportunities with your clients. And it also is what's there to support your employees doing the best they can, which supports your reputation. And again, creates that really wonderful self-fulfilling cycle. So for example, I mentioned the $250,000 error. I had another client a couple of years later came in with a similar risk profile, where one little mistake like that would have an outsized effect. And instead I had a person, we automated some of the things, really brought this person into the context of it, who would normally be back office, not involved with the client. So my role at the time was client relationship manager. And I'm talking to the client and I go, hey, how's everything going? Like, we've been through a very rough onboarding. And they go, we love the relationship manager you put on our account. And I'm going, they're not talking about me. Like, that would be flattering, but they're not talking about me, right? This is a little embarrassing. But they were talking about this guy in the back office who we took what would have been an hour of manual entry, reduced it down to just 5 minutes of double checking this little technological bridge we built was working. And he used his extra time, right? Not really extra, but extra time to call the client, to talk to them about the markets, in that case being in investments, to talk to them about their life and their weekend and their kids and sports and whatever. And they're like, we love this guy. And I was like, that is the reason why we build systems and processes. We don't just do it because somebody said we should. We don't just do it because it'll make it more efficient, it'll make us more profitable. And it will, because that was great. They went from $1.5 billion invested with us and gave us up to, I think it was another $4 billion that they gave us in 18 months. So yeah, it paid off in that respect too. But it's about, how do you bring out the best in your whole firm? How do you make everything wonderful? Because that's going to make my job easier, your job easier. And it's going to make it so much better for the business owner. So just, stepping back and thinking about, am I running this in the best way? Am I thinking about this in the best way?
So, and I was going to say, on the flip side, in firms that you've walked into that have been a total mess, what are some of the biggest challenges, or what are some of the biggest mistakes, whether it's in execution or in mindset of the managing partner, that you've seen that have kind of led to things be a mess? When you first look at a firm.
Yeah, I had a client come to me, and it was a combination of business issues as well as personal issues, where she told me at one point, she's like, I would have sold that firm for $1 the day of that she first met me. And when I look at what was going wrong for her, right, she had all these, she'd moved continents. Her mother had just passed away. She, like, a lot of things were going on. She was also starting to feel, I think, just not quite right in what she was doing with her firm. She wanted to concentrate on certain things, and figuring out how to extract herself from that was difficult. So we also looked at processes. Where were things just chewing up time? And what we did was we really got to the heart of what did she want to do? What did she want this firm to represent? Her reputation was very important to her, and found a new model for her, one that I wouldn't necessarily recommend to every firm, but it worked perfectly for her. We also looked at some of her processes, and one process in particular had to do with her invoicing of clients. We switched it. So it went from, she had an employee there who wanted to move on to something new, and was full-time. And she's like, I can't do this with somebody else. I wouldn't trust somebody else to do it. We ended up switching the process around so that, and there's a little work up front to do this, but she went from having this full-time employee to having to need that person only 2 days a month. And that person was willing to stay. She reduced her workload amazingly. And she's like, Rachel, I feel like I'm in retirement. So, you can come in with a big mess, but sometimes we answer those key strategic questions, and then we can take it down to what are the tactics? What are those? I like to think of them as dominoes. What are the things that we tip over that are going to make everything else fall easier into place? And so those were, two things. We changed the model of how she was operating her practice. And then we looked at some specific processes that were really big bottlenecks, and, to great results.
I as you're speaking, I have this vision of, as soon as you onboard a client, that they walk into your home and they lay on the couch and they sit there and they unload you all these things. And that being honest with you, that's important, of having somebody who can operationally get to the bottom of it. I love the fact that you brought up, and I'm going to summarize this, is the flexibility is important. I can tell you guys right now, I am very much a service guy. If I go out to eat somewhere and the service is horrible, I will never come back. So I can imagine that story of, the guy calling in his off hours and having that call. Let me tell you, that's why most of the clients stay with us, because we have that interpersonal relationship with them. Because again, if I'm in a situation, I can't understand what you're going through, I can't get deep enough from a marketing perspective to explain your story to the prospects you're going to. And Evans talked about that a lot from a sales perspective. You have to understand where they're going. And I think having somebody like yourself into place allows me to cut through the weeds and say, what is he really trying to tell me? What does he really want, so I can get to the point to it?
Yes,
right?
It's always what the client always says what they want. And then your job as a service professional is always figure out, okay, what do they actually need? What's going to get them to where they want to be? Because the two don't always sound the same. And sometimes the thing that somebody asks for is just not really workable. That's what they think they want, but it might not be realistic. It might not be in their price range. It might not actually just be, actually physically possible. So you have to,
Or Rachel, I don't know if you run into this, but sometimes people tell me what they think I want to hear, or people tell me what they think they're supposed to say, versus really laying out, what the vision. Again, somebody's like, well, I want the firm to make as much money as possible. It's like, well, if that means 80-hour weeks, and that means, lots of revenue, but not very much is falling to the bottom line, is that really what you want?
Yeah.
Or should we take a step back and, really think through, what it would look like?
Yes, it's really getting at that, somebody's why. I actually don't like asking the question why. I think you get, it sometimes sounds like a 2-year-old, or it's like you get kind of pat answers. But I love asking, well, what's the purpose of this? How does this matter to your life? Like, what is it what will having all of that money allow you to do? And sometimes somebody will say, well, it'll allow me to retire and to spend time with my family. It's like, well, can you go spend time with your family now? Like, how can we get you there? Sometimes I had a client who had said they really wanted to spend more time with their kids in their school environment, something like that. And finally it came down to, I was like, well, how long would this take you to rearrange your schedule to do it? Well, I think I could do it next week. Okay, you have permission. Just go do the thing. Okay, we don't have to rearrange your whole business for that. But I think it's really important to get, and I think for each of us as individuals, what are we doing this for? Because oftentimes there are multiple paths to get to the thing we really want. And it's very easy for all of us to fall into the trap of, this is what this person says, and this is what, so-and-so recommended. And we got to find the right fit for each of us. And, there's different models for every single business out there. Some people are high volume. Some people are, they max out at 6 clients, and that's their max, and they're happy with that. And both can be profitable, and both can be fulfilling, and both will find clients that suit them. So define that. And that's, that to me is that puzzle of the operational model, which then fits back into how you drive sales and how you drive marketing and the messaging you're putting out in the world.
So you're saying it's not a one size fits all kind of solution?
Yes. I'm not a fan of the cookie cutter, not a fan. So,
and I don't think any of us are.
Yeah.
So before we take off, one more time, tell us about your event in December, the day, all the details.
Sure. So it is the Small Law Big Profit Online Summit. It will be held December 9th through the 12th. We're going to be covering everything from, setting your vision for 2025, how to translate that through sales and marketing, as well as profit maximization and scalability. So hiring, delegation, tools. So I would love you to join if you are interested, if you are a solo or small law firm and you're looking to hit a big milestone in 2025. If you have big goals, this is a great place to start and kick off your next year. So you can find the details and register at smalllawbigprofit.com.
Awesome. Evan, any closing words?
Rachel, thank you. I think you've provided a lot of great insight. And again, looking forward to that conference.
All right. Thank you. Thank you both.
Awesome. So as usual, I'm Craig Andrews. That's Evan Poland. Got it in that direction the proper way. And you can find us on all the major podcast platforms, Apple, Spotify, Amazon, and more. You can always watch us. And now that we have Rachel on scene, people are tired of looking at me and Evan. Now you can see Rachel. You can visit our YouTube channel, which we'll put into the link of the bio here as well. Don't be afraid to follow us on LinkedIn. We are really growing our LinkedIn following. And I think because we're all business owners and we operate in the business, LinkedIn is a big platform for us. So follow us as well on LinkedIn at the Sales and Marketing Playbook Unleashed. Again, Craig Andrews, Evan Poland, Rachel Steininger. Until next time. Awesome. Thank you, Rachel. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on this exhilarating journey through the world of sales and marketing. Remember, the playbook is in your hands and the possibilities are limitless. Keep exploring, experimenting, and innovating, and watch as your business reaches unprecedented levels of success. Don't forget to subscribe to the Sales and Marketing Playbook Unleashed on all major podcast platforms, and follow us on YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn for even more exclusive content. Until next time, keep hustling and keep winning.